In the quiet of a Manhattan morning in early 2024, something extraordinary happened that would send ripples through the hearts of classic film enthusiasts worldwide. At 88 years old, Dustin Hoffman sat down for what many considered his most candid interview in decades, finally ready to pull back the curtain on secrets he had kept locked away for over 70 years. The legendary actor, whose piercing eyes still held the same intensity that captivated audiences in The Graduate and Kramer vs. Kramer, leaned forward with a weight that suggested the stories he was about to share had been pressing against his chest for far too long. For the first time in his storied career, Hoffman was prepared to reveal the intimate details of a bond forged in poverty, tested by fame, and strengthened by a loyalty that Hollywood's glittering facade could never tarnish. The friendship he spoke of wasn't with any of the household names you might expect, but with a man whose quiet brilliance had defined American cinema just as profoundly as Hoffman's own explosive performances. Robert Duvall, now 93 and living peacefully on his Virginia farm, had been Hoffman's closest confidant through the most transformative period of both their lives, yet their story together remained largely untold until this moment. What Hoffman revealed in that Manhattan sitting room would reshape everything we thought we knew about two of cinema's most revered figures and the brotherhood that sustained them through rejection, poverty, and ultimately, the dizzying heights of Hollywood success. The secrets Hoffman finally decided to share weren't the manufactured scandals that tabloids chase, but something far more profound and moving. They were the raw, unvarnished truths about what it means to pursue an impossible dream alongside someone who understands the depth of that calling better than anyone else in the world. As Hoffman's weathered hands gestured while he spoke, painting pictures of a time when both men were unknown, struggling, and desperately hungry for their first real break, it became clear that this wasn't just another celebrity interview. This was the unveiling of a sacred friendship that had quietly shaped two of the most important careers in American film history. The revelations that poured forth would illuminate not only the remarkable journey of these two icons but also expose the beautiful, heartbreaking reality of what it truly takes to transform from a nobody into a legend. The story begins in 1956, in a cramped acting studio on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, where two young men from vastly different worlds first locked eyes across a room filled with aspiring performers. Dustin Hoffman, barely 20 years old and standing at an unimpressive 5 feet 6 inches, had arrived in New York City with nothing but a battered suitcase and an unshakable belief that he was destined for something greater than his middle-class upbringing in Los Angeles had suggested. Robert Duvall, 25 and carrying himself with the disciplined bearing that came from his military family background, had just completed his service in the army and was chasing a dream that his admiral father considered nothing short of foolish rebellion. Neither man fit the Hollywood mold of leading man, yet something electric passed between them during those first awkward introductions at the neighborhood Playhouse School of Theater, where the legendary Sanford Meisner was reshaping how actors approached their craft. Hoffman later admitted that his first impression of Duvall was intimidation mixed with respect, noting how the older man possessed a stillness and focus that seemed almost otherworldly compared to the nervous energy that radiated from most struggling actors. Duvall, for his part, recognized something familiar in Hoffman's intensity, a hunger that matched his own despite their dramatically different personalities and approaches to life. Within weeks, financial necessity and genuine affinity drew them together when Gene Hackman, another neighborhood Playhouse student, suggested they pool their meager resources to afford rent in Manhattan's increasingly expensive housing market. The apartment they found at 327 West 109th Street was barely habitable by any reasonable standard, featuring a broken heating system, water stains that mapped the ceiling like abstract art, and neighbors whose nocturnal activities provided an unwelcome soundtrack to their daily struggles. Yet this dingy, three-room space would become the crucible where three of Hollywood's future legends forged bonds that would endure for decades. Hoffman revealed that the apartment's kitchen table, a rickety piece of furniture they'd rescued from a sidewalk, served as their communal dining area, study space, and makeshift stage where they practiced scenes late into the night. The refrigerator, when it functioned, rarely contained more than day-old bread, questionable milk, and whatever leftovers they could afford from the cheapest delicatessens in the neighborhood. During the harshest winter months, all three men would pile blankets in the living room and sleep together for warmth, their dreams of stardom feeling increasingly distant as bills accumulated and auditions led to nothing but polite rejections. The winter of 1957 tested their resolve in ways that would have broken weaker men, and it was during this period that Hoffman witnessed firsthand the quiet strength that would later make Duvall one of cinema's most compelling screen presences. While Hoffman worked frantically at a succession of jobs ranging from toy demonstrator at Macy's to attendant at a psychiatric hospital, Duvall maintained an almost monk-like discipline, rising before dawn to practice his craft regardless of how little sleep he'd managed the night before. Hoffman recalled watching his roommate stand motionless in front of their cracked mirror for hours, working through emotional exercises with a focus so intense it bordered on the spiritual. The contrast between their approaches fascinated Hoffman, who admitted that his own method involved constant motion, endless talking, and a nervous energy that filled whatever space he occupied. Duvall's stillness taught him that acting could be as much about what you didn't do as what you did, a lesson that would later inform some of Hoffman's most powerful screen moments. Their friendship deepened through shared humiliations and small victories, from the devastating rejection they both received at the Pasadena Playhouse, where instructors rated them among the students least likely to succeed professionally, to their first paying roles in off-Broadway productions that paid barely enough to cover subway fare. Hoffman revealed that Duvall possessed an almost supernatural ability to find sustenance in the most unlikely places, somehow stretching a dollar further than seemed mathematically possible while maintaining a dignity that never wavered despite their circumstances. There were nights when dinner consisted of nothing more than saltine crackers and whatever condiments they could collect from local restaurants, yet Duvall would arrange these meager offerings on their plates as if preparing for distinguished guests. This attention to detail and respect for ritual, even in poverty, struck Hoffman as profoundly moving and taught him that maintaining one's standards wasn't about external circumstances but internal commitment. The two men developed an unspoken understanding during this period, a communication that required few words but conveyed volumes about their shared determination and mutual respect. When Hoffman landed his first substantial role in an off-Broadway production of A Cook for Mr. General in 1961, Duvall was the first person he told, and the genuine joy in his friend's eyes meant more than any review or paycheck ever could. Similarly, when Duvall secured his breakthrough role as Boo Radley in To Kill a Mockingbird the following year, Hoffman felt a pride that surprised him with its intensity, realizing that his friend's success felt almost as meaningful as his own achievements. The early 1960s marked a turning point that would forever change the trajectory of both men's lives, though success arrived with complications neither had anticipated during their hungry years on 109th Street. Duvall's haunting portrayal of Boo Radley in To Kill a Mockingbird, though consisting of only a few minutes of screen time, announced the arrival of a major talent with such quiet authority that Hollywood's most discerning directors immediately took notice. Hoffman watched his friend's performance with a mixture of pride and something approaching awe, recognizing that Duvall had achieved something truly extraordinary in his ability to convey profound emotion without speaking a single word. The role catapulted Duvall into a different stratosphere of the industry, yet Hoffman revealed that success initially created an unexpected distance between them as the demands of their emerging careers pulled them in different directions. While Duvall began receiving offers for increasingly substantial roles, Hoffman continued grinding through smaller parts and auditions, sometimes going weeks without seeing his closest friend due to filming schedules and the growing complexity of their professional lives. The dynamic shift tested their relationship in ways that poverty never had, forcing both men to navigate the delicate balance between personal loyalty and professional ambition. Hoffman admitted that there were moments during this period when he felt genuinely envious of Duvall's rapid ascent, not because he begrudged his friend's success, but because it highlighted his own continued struggles in an industry that seemed determined to overlook his particular talents. Yet it was Duvall's response to success that deepened Hoffman's respect for him beyond anything their shared hardships had accomplished. Despite receiving attention from major studios and directors, Duvall maintained the same disciplined approach to his craft that had sustained him through their poorest days, never allowing external validation to compromise his internal standards or diminish his commitment to authenticity in his performances. When Hoffman finally achieved his own breakthrough with The Graduate in 1967, becoming an overnight sensation at age 30, Duvall was among the first to call with congratulations that felt completely genuine and free from any trace of competitiveness. The success that might have driven a wedge between lesser friends instead became a source of mutual inspiration, with each man's achievements serving as proof that their shared dream from those freezing nights in the Upper West Side apartment had been worth every sacrifice. Hoffman revealed that throughout the late 1960s and early 1970s, as both their careers soared to heights they could never have imagined, they maintained a ritual of meeting for dinner whenever both happened to be in New York, sitting in the same diner where they'd once counted change to afford coffee and talking about their craft with the same passion that had sustained them through rejection and uncertainty. Today, as Hoffman reflects on nearly 7 decades of friendship with Duvall, the secrets he finally chose to reveal carry a weight that transcends typical Hollywood memoir territory, touching instead on the profound human truths that sustain two remarkable men through extraordinary circumstances. The most closely guarded secret, Hoffman admitted, was how deeply both men struggled with self-doubt even after achieving massive success, continuing to call each other during moments of creative crisis well into their 70s and 80s. During the filming of Apocalypse Now, when Duvall was delivering what many consider his greatest performance as Lieutenant Colonel Kilgore, he would call Hoffman late at night from the Philippines, not to share war stories from the chaotic production, but to voice fears that he wasn't good enough for the role that would define his legacy. Similarly, Hoffman revealed that before accepting Tootsie, the film that would earn him another Academy Award nomination, he spent hours on the phone with Duvall, working through anxieties about whether audiences would accept his radical transformation into Dorothy Michaels. These conversations, Hoffman explained, were sacred spaces where two masters of their craft could acknowledge vulnerability without judgment, maintaining the same honest communication that had sustained them through poverty decades earlier. The final secret Hoffman shared carried perhaps the most emotional weight of all. Throughout their careers, whenever either man received a major award or recognition, they would privately dedicate it to their friendship and the dreams they'd nurtured in that freezing apartment on 109th Street. Duvall's Oscar for Tender Mercies in 1984 was as much Hoffman's victory as his own, just as Hoffman's triumph with Rain Man belonged equally to the friend who had believed in him when the rest of the world saw only a strange-looking kid from Los Angeles with impossible ambitions. Now, with Duvall living peacefully on his Virginia farm and Hoffman still actively pursuing projects that challenge him creatively, their friendship has evolved into something approaching the mythic, a bond forged in struggle and refined by success into something approaching pure gold. The greatest secret, Hoffman concluded with tears in his eyes, was simply this, that in a business built on artifice and competition, two men had managed to preserve something completely authentic and generous, proving that real friendship doesn't just survive success but can actually be strengthened by it. Their story stands as testament to the power of loyalty, the importance of remembering where you came from, and the beautiful truth that some bonds transcend even the brightest spotlight Hollywood can shine.